Welcome to the Nigerian Pride today, the 20th of July 2022. I am your host, Lion Olushokumbi. It's been, some sort of busy week for the Tory party. Today, they've whittled it down to two, Rishi Sunak versus Liz Truss. It's left for the Tory membership across the country to decide who becomes the next leader of the Conservative Party and also who becomes the Prime Minister of the country. We'll see how that goes, but that's not part of the discussion for today. Also, it will be good to also celebrate that great man who won Britain's only gold medal, Britain's first gold medal at the World Championship there in Oregon. It was a great run, and we cannot overlook that on this show today. And that's why we have to pay tribute to that wonderful Scotsman, because yes, he is a Scotsman. People will be like, why is he mentioning it? I will mention it and I will talk about it, not for anything else, but because Whitman is Scottish. Yes. And that is the new world champion for the 1500 meters race in the world. Won that overnight. I stayed up to watch that race, and I was happy I did. Jake Whitman did a great job there representing Great Britain. So, let's fast forward. Inflation rose to 9.4% today. Where are we going? What's happening? And that leads us into today's topic of why not Scotland? Why not Scotland? We've seen Nicola Sturgeon come out again last week with one of the papers to support the call for independence. Yesterday, the Supreme Court rejected the request or the prayers of the UK government to throw out the case of hearing the independence case brought by the Scottish government, meaning that the Supreme Court will have hearing sections for that case. So, what we're looking at today, or what I want to actually look at today, is to actually focus on why is Scotland even thinking of independence? What factors what are the factors that could mitigate against this? Or what are the factors that is not making the argument sinking for some people, that is not making the argument convincing for some people? And it's important to look at this. And I've not got a guest with me on the show today. Because apparently the MPs who will have loved to bring on the show today were all busy today in Westminster. We couldn't also get any of the MSPs as well. So I just have to go on my own now today. And hopefully maybe later they will come around and give us the audience and answer the questions we have for both sides that remain. That's the unionists and the ones who want independence. So, let's start it this way. The whole issue of independence has, it's been on for a long time. We've had it for a long time. If some of you remember very well, it dates back to the time of even David Cameron. Remember how he, back on the 5th of May 2011, when SNP had a majority elected then, that was then when they still had their former leader, Alex Salmond, Cameron at that time accepted the principle of a referendum. And then negotiations started. And by the 15th of October 2012, the Edinburgh Agreement was signed, which gave the passage for Section 30 order. And at this point, the referendum question testing started from that time till 2013. And we had the Scottish consultation, the UK consultation before then, and everything happened. And then by February 2013, the Section 30 order was then made fully. So the agreement was signed 15th of October 2012, but the order actually came into action on the 12th of February 2013. The passage of the Scottish Independence Referendum Bill came to the Scottish government. Was published by the Scottish government. I think that was on the 26th of November 2013, when the Scottish government published its white paper on independence. And then the race started, the campaign started up and down the country. 2014, 18th of September was the polling date. And after it all, it came out to be 55 to 45. 55 to remain in the UK, 45 to leave the UK. There was the assumption or the narrative that many of the 55 decided to vote no because they believed the UK, Scotland staying in the UK because UK will remain in EU. It was also argued that, maybe I should put it in another sense, it was also argued that, if Scotland should get independence, then it means it will have to reapply to become a member of the EU. That's the European Union. So it was believed that many then voted no to independence in order to remain in the UK to keep that EU membership and relationship going, which affects trade and everything. However, Brexit came in. And when the EU referendum came up, the United Kingdom voted to leave the EU. Yes, 62% of the votes casted in Scotland was yes to stay in the EU and not to leave the EU. However, polls from other parts of the UK added together means that the UK had to leave the EU. Since then, the agitation and the quest for independence rose again. May 2021 Scottish election gave a 72 seats out of 129 seats in Holyrood to the SNP and the Green Party, the two parties in Parliament that support independence. And also, on Tuesday, the 28th of June 2022, Nicola Sturgeon, the Scottish First Minister, announced plans to hold the second independence referendum on Thursday, the 19th of October 2023. And like I said earlier, just yesterday, the Supreme Court announced that yes, it has accepted the case brought before it by the Scottish government for clarification on the Scottish independence referendum, and that it will be having hearing sections. Even though some part of that was even mentioned today at the PMQ as the Prime Minister's questions earlier today, it was obvious that Boris Johnson cares less about whatever is even happening now, not to talk of Scottish independence. But we have to look at it ourselves. There have been so many topics on this independence thing, but the question we are faced is that, or the question I want to pose is that, can Scotland actually afford independence? Can Scotland afford to go it alone? Can Scotland afford to go independent of the UK? There is the issue of the increasing deficit of the Scottish government budgets yearly. The loss of the EU membership, like I said earlier, the EU membership status, like I said earlier, since the UK is out of the EU, it means Scotland is out of the EU at the moment. If it gains independence, will it be able to go back and join the EU? World recession, which is going on at the moment as a result of COVID-19 and other combined issues. Also, the global appetite for renewable energy and the change in attitude and behavior towards oil and gas. These are some of the key issues we'll be looking at today to justify why Scotland should not be thinking about independence. People will look at me and be like, what is Olu on about today? It's because it's good to look at the part that actually argues for Scotland staying in the Union as against going it alone. Let's weigh it up and then see for ourselves. We still have the question of England being the largest market for Scotland, up to about 62% or 60% plus. That's what England takes of our market for us. Would there be border dilemmas if Scotland goes on its own? Can we afford to keep it? Can we afford to keep a border between us and the rest of the UK when independence comes? Or can we afford to keep a border with the rest of the world? How would that work? If Scotland goes independent, will she, I want to use she for her now, will she be joining the EU or not? I'm not talking about the party stance, because even if Scotland wins, even if the referendum comes tomorrow and it is a yes to independence, there will still be discussions, consultation, and even another referendum to decide if Scotland wants to be republic or not, and if Scotland wants to join the EU back or not. Yes, there is still going to be that, because it cannot be decided by just the SNP and the Green Party. At that point, it will be everybody talking about it. And many chats about the currency. Will it be the pounds? Will it be euro? Will Scotland go on its own with its own currency? Who knows? And finally, the national debt. Yes, at the moment, we have a national debt in the UK, which each part of the UK, each of the 4 home nations, have their own share of. So, let's begin by looking first at the issue of the economy. Any day, anytime, anywhere at all, any debate around Scottish independence will always center around the Scottish economy. The ability of an independent Scotland to be able to pay our bills. Many will ask at the moment, has Scotland been able to pay our bills, even as as an home nation within the country United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? Today we'll be looking at some findings from different institutions. The LSE, that's London School of Economics, some of its researchers, they reported that Scotland's income per capita is set to decline by at least 2% from the situation of Brexit alone. What does that mean? That means because of Brexit, because Brexit has happened, the income per capita, or the per capita income of Scotland will decline by 2%. This is basically that, okay, yes, we the United Kingdom is now out of the EU, and that's it. That will happen. And that is even before considering any potential independence calculation, before considering any of that. So if per capita would decline by 2%, how are we dealing with that now that we're still in the United Kingdom? Remember, the Scottish government now has the power to raise taxes by itself. Yes. So, the question now is, whatever the per capita income of Scotland has fallen to after independence, how have we been able to deal with that? How have we been able, how has the government been able to considerably deal with that? And when you look at that creeping around, you'll be like, okay, is there even a time scale that we think, well, with the impact of Brexit, yes, we know there's an expected 2% decline in PCI, but do we have like specific time to look to, will it be for after 5 years we'll bounce back, after 10 years we'll bounce back? No, nobody has an answer to that. Not even the greatest of economists that we have in this country. And what that does to the independence agenda of Scotland is to throw it out there like, so if we then go independent at this point, can we even afford it? Are we not going to start borrowing money everywhere and then mortgage our own future as an independent country? Why? Why should we be considering that then at this point, when we don't even know the time scale of the impact of Brexit on our economy yet? There have been suggestions that it may take a generation. A generation will possibly be a minimum of 15 years. So, if we gain independence, would that be doubling that or tripling that? We don't know. And this is why people think about it that, what independence? Let's just stay where we are. We remain part of the UK. Now, it's important to also mention this, that there's a lack of high quality data for Scottish independence. And when I mean high quality data, I mean research into, okay, what will things look like if Scotland goes independent? And the question is that the fault of the Scottish government? In their own part, I think they are trying their best. But you can only make forecasts when it comes to such situation that we find ourselves in Scotland. And that's why it becomes difficult again. Now, for instance, IFS, all these bodies, they've said that, well, there are no records of Scottish imports and exports. Hence, we can't even justify what the real value of the Scottish gross domestic product is. That is the Scottish GDP. Now, it cannot be calculated. We don't know the exact figure. Well, many of you listening may say, that's not true. Yeah. But remember, today I've said I'm only talking in argument for the unionist. Yeah. Just looking at the main points they are making, which look sensible. Because in this situation, we have to carry out a comparative analysis of the pros and the cons, weigh up everything in projection, and see how we go forward. Now, since 2014, the Scottish government have been on an increasing deficit budget. Yes, since 2014. Remember, 2014 was when we had the first Scottish independence referendum, precisely the 18th of September that year. 8.6% increase on GDP in 2019-2020, which is more of 6 percent points higher than that of the rest of the UK average. Deficit between 2020 and 2021 is between 22% to 25% of national income. You ask a lot of questions of yourself about that when you start listening to those figures. Be like, what's this? Now I'm going to quickly run through what the London School of Economics published in the Investment Monitor. So what they said is that with Brexit happening, no independence, Scotland being part of the UK, decline in income, in Scotland's income, will be 2%. Okay? Now, what they also said is that with Brexit, with independence, that means Scotland being independent and then rejoining the EU with low border costs, so that means keeping the border simple, soft, not hard, is an estimated decline of 6.3%. If we have Brexit, we have independence. If we have UK common market with low border costs, that's with the UK, 6.5% drop. If we have Brexit, independence, with Scotland rejoining the EU with high border costs, that means hard border, 7.6% decline. If we go on with Brexit, independence, with UK common market, that is the UK being our our largest market, our largest place to sell, with high border costs, that is with hard border, 8.7% decline expected. I mean, this, a layman looking at this and listening to what I've just read out will tell you straight, hell no, we're not having independence. Because if with Brexit alone, and we're still in the UK, not a member of the EU, 2.0% decline in Scottish income. That's the per capita income. If independence comes in, Scotland joins the EU with soft border, 6.3. That means it's adding on an additional 4.3% on the decline. If we're independent, Brexit, UK common market, soft border, 6.5. Brexit, independence, Scotland joins the EU, hard border, 7.6. Brexit, independence, UK common market, hard border, 8.7. So looking at those figures, what is straight to see from those figures is that going independence at any point will lead to a decline in the per capita income of Scotland. regardless. Now, I know some of you will start thinking, yeah, but we can do this, we can do it. Right. Today, I'm only looking at the argument from the unionist side, like I said. Okay? So, even if we expect a 30% increase for Scotland in trading costs with the rest of the UK, it's not, I mean, it's not being looked at as a positive prospective option, because you don't know. That is, you know, because what the LSE, or what's it called, what the London School of Economics said in their analysis was that even if, you know, there is that even if we have a high and low cost scenario, with the high costs being more pessimistic and expecting a 30% increase from Scotland in trading costs with the rest of the UK. The low cost was estimating half of that, which is, 15% increase. So looking at even the low cost and the high cost of about 30% increase in Scottish trade cost and 15% for the low cost. Looking at both scenarios, what the LSE are saying is that Scottish independence would cost 2 to 3 times more than Brexit alone. And that's based on just income per capita only. That is, it would cost Scotland times 2. It would cost Scotland twice or thrice of what it's costing it now in Brexit when it becomes independent. And that's even difficult to chew. Now, one thing we need to remember is that even if Scotland goes independent, even if Scotland gets in, that's in the, if the independence comes true, the rest of the UK will still remain its largest trade partner, and we cannot take that for granted. We cannot say, oh, we just want to go join the EU. And then look at what it will cost. And then, what that will show you, and now, I'll tell you this. Because if Scotland gets independence and goes to the EU, becomes an EU member again, it will have to be dealing with the UK through the EU. It won't be able to deal with the rest of the UK directly as it will have wanted to be. It will have as she wants to, she will have expected it to be. And these are the things the unionists are looking at. Like, oh, what are you saying? You want to go in on? You want to get independence? You join the EU back, and then when it comes to trading with your largest market, which is the rest of the UK, you won't even be able to come to the table as Scotland. You'll be coming as the EU. And these are the things that we have to look at. In a report by the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which dates back to April last year, they gave some, and they were looking at the ONS's preliminary estimates of public sector revenue, spending and borrowing in 2020 to 2021. That report shows that Scotland's budget deficit spiked between 22% to 25% of national income for 2020, 2021, 22% to 25%. I mean, that's really concerning. Yes, we can say, oh, wait a minute, COVID-19 was there. There's an impact of COVID-19 there. So, the disparity between the Scottish deficit, particularly when you compare with the rest of the UK, will continue. That disparity will continue because it's different things with these different regions in the UK. So we're going to have higher levels of public spending per capita, largely going into the public services, and then they'll be slightly lower than the average level of tax as the main reason for this. Well, we don't know how that goes, but that's the interpretation of what that report from IFS says last year, April. We need to look at what's happening at the moment. Now, some have argued that the tone of the jazz, and when you say jazz in Glasgow in Scotland, you know what it means. People will say Glasgow Rangers, and we know the Glasgow Rangers fans largely are unionist. So many are believing that this report are largely looking like unionist, and that's what it should look like, because yes, it's unionist. That's what it should look like. But another thing to look at is that how do we get to project or analyze and project Scottish foreign direct investment? So the question is, an economist will tell you, if the economic data of Scotland are not clear, then the country's numbers are favorable when it comes to tracking FDI. But that's pre-pandemic. You can see how it's working. Pre-pandemic, if we're like, oh, well, we don't really have enough, we have unclear economic data for Scotland, yeah, then when it comes to foreign direct investment, you can say, well, that's looking favorable then if we are going to be tracking this. But now we've got the pandemic there, which came in, and this is it. There was a survey that showed that Scotland had a stronger year for foreign direct investment in 2019, with projects increasing by 7.4%, and that was between 2018 and 2019. And this was particularly seen in the Scottish financial sector, with Glasgow ranking as the second most attractive UK city for financial services investment. Please keep that, because we're going to come to that when we argue for the independence of Scotland. How Scottish cities can actually be the arguing point for those going for independence. But that's not for today. If you look at there's the EY European Investment Monitor, which shows all this figure, and it's actually good to see how Scotland goes there. But the thing we have to go back to again, and I've been talking economics, I'm going to come to the ones that really goes into your passions soon, into your emotions soon. England is by far the biggest market for Scotland. Like I've said before, 60+% of Scottish produce goes to the rest of the UK. So we could say 60, it could be 64, it could be 69%. The remaining then goes wherever in the world. Only 17% goes to the EU, the US, and elsewhere. So if 60+%, so let's go for the maximum of 69. So you'll be listening to my pen moving there because I'm doing some calculations for you. So 69% of Scottish produce goes to the rest of the UK. We have 21 left. Am I right? No, 31, sorry. We have 31% left. Out of the 31%, only 17% goes to the EU, the US, and the rest of the world. I didn't say 17% only for the EU. It is 17% for the EU, the US, and the rest of the world. And we are left with 14% which stays here. Boy, oh boy. Why will I want to go independent? Why will I want to gain independence to sacrifice 69%, a 69% market, for an EU that I don't even know if the 17% is going to grow at all? Remember, even the 17% is not for EU alone. It's also for the United States of America and the rest of the world. 17%. 69% goes. Okay, even if someone, because I can see some of you pointing out on my thing now. So even if we say 60% for the rest of the UK, it's still 17% for the rest of the world, and it should still be 23 staying here in Scotland. So what are we talking about? Tell me, why are we asking for any independence? It shows something. What that shows us, if you don't understand, let me just break it down in layman language. What that shows us is that we trade more with our other home nations than we trade with the rest of the world. It shows that Scotland survives on the trade or on the businesses she does with the rest of the UK more than what she does with the EU, the US, and the rest of the world. At the moment, because of the Brexit thing, because of the Irish economy and the fact that goods cannot flow through England into Ireland anymore like that, that's what people are arguing on at the moment. I'm not going to put the argument for independence now. I want to put it for not going for independence. So I don't want to argue. I mean, my instinct is pushing me towards using it to argue for independence. But no, staying with it, that with this economic figure, why are we going anywhere? Why should Scotland be looking for independence? The argument, many of the independent campaigners have been arguing with the EU market, But really, when it comes to Scotland, the EU market is not of any significance to our economy. Sincerely, looking at the facts and figures, the rest of the UK market is of more significance to us. Well, we will not deny the fact that the exports from Scotland is gradually increasing. Export of Scotland to Europe is gradually increasing. But that is only increasing because of it's not just increased for Scotland, but that's the same for the rest of the UK as well. Yes, when Scotland is independent, yes, we know there will be more effort to increase export to the EU. So, but the thing we are saying is that how would that increase really help? How would that compensate for Scotland? If Scotland gains independence and that, yes, the push happens, how would that compensate Scotland in the short or even medium term? Yes, there has been an increase, but the increase we've seen in the export of Scotland to Europe, it's not so much that you can depend on it for anything. On the issue of the border dilemma, I mean, why would Scotland want to have a border policy between itself and the rest of the UK? But what will happen is that until Scotland gets the membership of the EU, she will have to deal with border policy also with Europe. Yes. Yeah, I remember sometime before the elections, the latest election, I remember the First Minister talking about the fact that, it's the UK government talking about, that it's not the SNP that is raising the issue of borders, that the issue of borders only transpires between the UK government and its Brexit, and because of Brexit and everything. But the truth of the matter is that whatever happens, if Scotland gains independence, we will still want to have trade going on with the rest of the UK. But when you look at some of the policies we've been seeing from the Scottish government, that if this happens, it may well lead to a hard border between England and the rest of the UK. But we don't know what will happen. But the question is, do we want to be going through the problem of that? Then the EU membership. If Scotland gains independence, do you actually think Scottish people will hope to go back into the EU when they know this economic fact already? Or they would just want to stay alone and maybe see if they can become a permanent member of international organizations like the G7? I know there's been argument that some parties are arguing that no nuclear power in an independent Scotland, but the countries in the G7 which are controlling the world all have one thing in common: nuclear. So why would an independent Scotland not think of nuclear power? Because that is the only thing that can make a big girl like her hit with the big boys and big girls. Because when you take yourself away from the UK, you lose the membership of the G7 straight away. At the moment, Scotland is part of the G7 because it is a home nation of the UK. You don't want to lose that status. in the present world. You don't want to make yourself vulnerable, regardless of whatever policy or whatever principles you're looking at. Now, I don't even want to even get into the argument of, how an independent Scotland will go about getting a full membership of the EU. But I think one thing we've seen so far, taking, for example, the issue going on now in Ukraine, with even the pandemic, is that the UK has been leading on all those fronts. Look at the pandemic. We were the first to roll out the jabs. We were the first to do that, and we can see the effect, because when we had given the first jab and everything going to the second, the rest of the world, apart from Israel, was still dealing with it, having death here and there. With the issue in Ukraine, we are leading it and everything. So this EU alignment will be different. Yes, there's been some argument about the strategic importance of the EU membership to an independent Scotland. But the question is, how would that actually affect us? The Scottish government cannot negotiate with the EU at the moment, but the EU can declare that because Scotland has already long been part of the EU, should it be legal, become that. But, that's left for them to decide. Like I said, I don't even want to look at that. But let's look at the pound, the issue of the pound, the euro, and going on its own. At the moment, the pound is one of the strongest currency in the world. Why would you want to take yourself out of that to go for the euro or go alone? It's important to think of. It is important to consider. Finally, the national debt of the country. When I say the country, I mean the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I remember some time ago when the former First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond, was saying that Scotland has nothing to do with the national debt. No chance. The national debt is the responsibility of the four home nation that forms the United Kingdom. So whether you like it or not, a part of that debt will be inherited by an independent Scotland. So how? Why will you want to keep yourself? Approximately, we're talking about almost 106 billion pounds will be what Scotland owes. So, what are we going to do? Can we really afford independence? Can Scotland afford independence? Is this something we should be thinking of? Is it better for us to just forget about it? And we have to be cautious when we are looking at it. Yes, Scotland has competitive advantages that right now in the UK is missing, and England is missing as well. The lack of confidence that there is in England, in government, in the States, and everything else compared with the belief that people have in Scotland in their ability to actually deliver something different is inestimable in value. And that was from Murphy. That was from Richard Murphy. That's what Richard Murphy said. And this is where we have to start looking at it, because that's the emotional side, that the Scottish people are ready. Yes, we know the Scottish people to be willing. We are willing. We are hardworking. We are not scared. We like taking we like taking risk. We like going for it. We believe we have the power to harness our potentials. But the question is, for undecided voters on the independence topic, can Scotland afford it or not? Would Scotland be able to afford independence? There are a lot of things we have to think of. Today, we have looked at just a few of the talking points of why Scotland should remain part of the United Kingdom. Next week, I will switch side to look at why Scotland should be independent, can be a successful independent country, taking some of the points today and turning them around. Until then, keep safe, take care of yourself. I remain Lion Olushukumi. Good evening.